Hello, welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and we have a debut puzzle today from Sam Knott. This one of our testers described this puzzle as a blinking marvel, so I'm hoping it's going to be very good fun. Just to let you know that I have just literally now released our Sudoku puzzle hunt to the world. So if you are a patron of the channel, do check out our Patreon page at the moment. You will be able to access this new Sudoku hunt. We're very proud of it and we hope you enjoy it. If you'd like to get a taster for what's involved, then there's a link under this video and that will give you access to the preamble and the first puzzle. So you might like to check that out. Yeah, as I say, we've already had a number of guesses, even though I've only just released it, as to the final solution, and none of those guesses are correct. In fact, one of the guesses was received after 17 seconds, so yeah, a little bit hopeful. Yeah, anyway, good luck to you all, and as I said in yesterday's video, there is a small prize for the first correct solutions. One other thing I just wanted to mention, it's very unlikely, but just in case any of you out there happen to know either the author of the sort of the work that we're referencing in our puzzle hunt, or any of the main characters perhaps, then do try and get them to publicize it. I think it's they'd be only too happy to if they knew about it. You know what I mean. Now, what are the rules of Sam's puzzle? Well, we have a sort of sandwich Sudoku. We've got normal Sudoku rules, but then we've got sandwich Sudoku rules, which are these numbers outside the grid. So a quick reminder on how that works. Basically, what these numbers tell us is the sum of the digits sandwiched between the 1 and the 9 in the columns and rows. So wherever we place the 1 and the 9 in column 4, let's say that was a 1 and that was a 9, these three squares would have to sum up to 11. So that's how the sandwich clues work. Now, the other thing that we need to know about this puzzle is that 3 of the 3x3 boxes in this puzzle, I don't know which 3, I'm just highlighting them to illustrate 3x3 boxes rather than these actual 3x3 boxes, are magic squares. So sometimes we get emails saying, oh, stop doing magic squares have been done to death. Well, I sort of agree with that in a way, but I think that we saw just a couple of days ago that magic squares still have a place in beautiful, interesting Sudoku puzzles. And as I say, our testers' reports on this one suggest that this is absolutely up to scratch. So 3 magic squares somewhere. Now, let's just, for anyone who isn't or is new to the channel, you might not be aware of the logic that applies to magic squares in a Sudoku. So let me just run through that very quickly. Let's imagine that this square was a magic square. What would we know about this square? Well, we know, obviously, it would contain all of the digits from 1 to 9. In a magic square, every row, every column, and the 2 main diagonals have to add up to the same number. Now, we can do some basic arithmetic and work out what that number is if we know that the sum of the numbers 1 to 9 is 45. Well, each of these 3 rows, therefore, must be worth 45 divided by 3. That's 15. So we now know that in this magic square, every row, every column, and every main diagonal is summing to 15. Now, the next thing you can note is that this square, the central square, has a unique property amongst all the cells in this box. And it has the unique property that it needs to be part of 4 different ways of making 15, because the central square is part of its column, its row, and both diagonals. So whatever we put in this square, it has to be possible to make 15 4 different ways. Now, if you experiment with that, you'll find out the only number that can possibly match that condition is the number 5. And there's a hint to that, because basically once you put 5 in here, obviously each of the other components of the sum to 15 has to add up to 10, and you can make 10 in 4 different ways with 1, 9, 2, 8, 3, 7 and 4, 6. So that's why 5 belongs in the middle. Now, if you mess around with these a bit more, you'll find out that there's another interesting property, which is that the corner squares, every corner square is part of 3 different sums, because it's part of its row, its column, and 1 diagonal. And actually, when you experiment with the numbers, you'll find that the corner squares all have to be even numbers, and these squares in between the corner squares all have to be odd numbers. And you can get an idea for that if you try a number like 9 in the magic square. If you try and put a 9 in and ask, how do we make 15? Well, 9 plus 5 plus 1 is one way, but what's the second way, or the third way, or the fourth way? Well, there is only a second way, because once you've got rid of 1 and 5 as a way of getting to 6, the only other way that's valid is with 2 and 4. You can't use 3 and 3, because obviously it's a Sudoku, and repeating numbers in a row or column is not advisable. So that's all I can tell you about magic squares. As I say, in this puzzle we don't know where they live, but we have to find out. Do have a go at this. As I say, it's a blinking marvel. To play the puzzle, you click on the link under the video, and with that, let's get cracking. Now, as I was putting this into the software, I had one little tiny insight, which is, I think, a bit obvious, but I will state it up front. And that's that if there are 3 magic squares in this puzzle, well, we know that wherever the magic square is, it will contain the number 5. Oops, 5 in the middle of its box. So, if 3 of these squares have to contain a 5 in the middle, they can never be in the same row or column, because that would obviously cause the 5s to clash. So the magic squares have got to be offset. So, you know, this could be a magic square, this could be a magic square, and this could be a magic square, and that would be absolutely fine, because then those 3 squares there could be 5, and none of these would hit each other. So that's the first thing, or the only thing that I thought before I started this. I guess the other thing we need to be aware of with a magic square is wherever the magic square lives, let's say it was here, then the other important digits other than 5 in a sandwich Sudoku are the numbers 1 and 9, because obviously the 1s and 9s are relevant for each of the sandwich clues. And there's going to be no other way of starting this puzzle other than to use the sandwich clues, because that's the only thing we really know. So the 1s and 9s are obviously odd numbers, so they're going to appear either vertically or horizontally next to the 5 wherever the 5s live. Now, of course, it'd be very, very helpful if we knew where the 5s lived. The other thing we could do, I guess, if we look at the 27 column here and ask where the 1s and 9s can go in this column, well, they can never go in the central 3 positions. And we can see that if we try and put a 1 here, how would we make the sandwich add to 27? Well, the furthest away I could put the 9 from the 1 would be there. So these 4 squares would have to sum to 27. But 8 plus 7 plus 6 plus 5 adds to 26, somewhat suspiciously. So it looks like the 27 has been used here for exactly that reason, i.e. to rule out 1s and 9s from these positions. I'm going to label in green cells that can't be 1s and 9s. 24, there's a little trick you can do with any number that's 22 or higher. You can basically always green out the central square, because again, similar logic, if you try and put a 1 or a 9 here, you have to have a 3-cell sandwich as a maximum, and you can't make 3 cells in a sandwich Sudoku, or as part of the sandwich filling, add up to 24, because you can't use the 9. So the maximum we can make those 3 squares would be 8, 7 and 6. That only adds up to 21. All of which is a very long way of saying I'm stuck, because I'm not actually seeing what I'm meant to do here. I mean, I guess we now know if this is the magic square, if this central square is a magic square, then the 1s and 9s would have to go vertically, because this square can't be a 1 or a 9, because it's green. So if this is a magic square, the 1s and 9s go vertically. Okay, so we know this is not a magic square then. Because if this was a magic square, must be important. If this was a magic square, as I just said, the 1s and 9s go vertically, but then the 0 clue is broken. Because I can't... A 0 clue means there is no gap between the 1 and the 9, i.e. the sandwich filling is equal to 0. There are 0 cells, or there's a 0 sum, which must imply that there are 0 cells between the 1 or the 9. So I'd need to put the 1 or the 9 either here or here, which is impossible given the other 1 or 9 is actually down here. So this is not a magic square. Oh, and in fact, wherever the magic square is, the 1s and 9s can't go vertically. Because, I mean, if this is a magic square and we try and put the 1s and 9s vertically, we have exactly the same problem. So the magic square in the central, whichever one of these is a magic square, I'm getting there slowly, sorry, whichever one of these is a magic square, the 1s and 9s are horizontal. Which means what, therefore? What is that telling me? So if it was this one, I'm just going to pencil it in just so I can look at it and see if it gives me any inspiration. If this was the case, what is it telling us? So in this row, either this would have to be a 1 and a 9 pair, or there would have to be a 1 or a 9 here, and either this domino or this domino would be a 1 or a 9. Ah, no, that doesn't work, does it? No, it doesn't. Ah, I've spotted it. Right, okay. So what's going on here is that, yeah, wherever this 0 clue is fulfilled, you can't put the 1 and 9 in the same box. Because if you do, if we try and make that 1 and 9, for example, now we know that the 1s and 9s in row 6 have got to go there in 2 of those 3 cells. Well, that's impossible. This is an 11 clue. It needs at least 2 cells in the sandwich. So I could put a 1 here and a 9 here, but I can't make this cell equal 11. So the 1 and the 9, wherever they live, are not in this row, in row 4, are not in the same box. So they must span, they're either here or they're here, because they must span a box. Right, we are getting somewhere. I'm slowly getting my head round this. Oh, they can't be here, because this can't be a 1 or a 9. So I think the 1 and 9 have to be here. That feels right, doesn't it? So, yeah, the 1 and 9 can't be in the same box. They've got to span boxes. They can't span this box. This is right. This is a 1-9 pair. So these squares now are, we can make green. And now we know this one is the magic square. Because otherwise we can't make this a magic square, because the implication would be there would be 3 cells that had to be 1 and 9 in it. So this is the magic square. The 1s and the 9s go horizontally. We can make all those green, all these green. The 11 clue now is important, look, because that must be at least 2 cells, so we can green in those, and that places the other 1, 9 in the centre. That can't be a 1 or a 9, because this 11 clue must be at least 3 cells. Sorry, at least 2 cells, so the 1, 9 has to be at least 3 away. The 12 clue, look, that must be at least 2 cell sandwich. What now? I feel this is a really good break-in. Now, no, I see. Look, now we know, if we look at the first 3 rows of the grid, we know that one of these is a magic square. Well, it's not this one anymore because of the 5 here. Can it be this one? Well, it can't be this one, look, because if it's this one, if we try and make this a magic square, then we've either got to put the 1 or the 9 and the 9 in those two squares, or that's impossible, we've got a green cell here, or we have to put them vertical, and that's impossible because there's a third cell that has to be a 1 or a 9. So the 1 or the 9 has to be here in the first three boxes. So this is a 1 or a 9. And surely why am I not understanding? That must I must be able to work out something more. Oh, maybe I have to use the other one, the other magic square now, because if I know where two of them are, I know where the third one is. Yes, this is better. So now you can see this dot, this green cell here is telling me the 1s and 9s have to be horizontal. What a brilliant, this is a brilliant puzzle. It is just beautiful. Let's make all those green. Now, look, the 11 column now is forced. We've got our 1s and 9s in the 11 column. All of these can be made green. The 27, that's a big number, obviously. So we know that the total for the column, if we add up all of the numbers in the column, that will be 45. So the sandwich filling is 27. The 1 and the 9 that form the sandwich crusts, that's another 10. So that's 37. So we need 8 cells summing to 8 outside the sandwich. So this could be a lone 8. Or there could be 2 cells summing to 8. But they can't be, it's not possible to put the 1 or the 9 here. You can't have a 4-cell sandwich. So that's green. So now one of these two squares has to be a 1 or a 9. Maybe I can do more with the magic squares now, because obviously if these are 1 and 9, those are 3 and 7 in the vertical direction, because we know where the odd digits go. So that could still be an 8 on its own. Sorry about this. What is it I'm meant to be spotting here? So is it... I'm not spotting anything. The 24 clue, let's do it in order, let's do it methodically. The 24 clue, I have no idea what that's telling me. I just don't think that's the next step. The 11 clue, this could be a 2 or a 3 cell clue. So it could be 3 cells in the sandwich, or it could be 2 cells in the sandwich. No, I've got it. It's this clue that's important. Because, of course, this is a magic square. So if it's a magic square, every row in the magic square adds to 15. So those add to 15. So now we ought to be able to work out, I've got 15 here, plus the 1 and the 9, that's another 10, that's 25, plus the sandwich filling is 11, so that's 36. That's good. So this can't be a 1 or a 9. If this is the 1 or the 9, we've now got these 8 cells summing to 36. I would have to make this one a 9 to make the row add to 45, and I can't repeat 9 in the row. Whoa, that is lovely. The combination of using the sandwich and the magic square property is so unexpected, at least to me. That's really beautiful. And now look, this, you know what I mean, this column, the magic square. We can't put the 1s and 9s here, because if we do, there'll be 3 of them. So the 1s and 9s go horizontally. So we can put all greens across there. Oh, that fixes the 27 now then. This must be a 1 or a 9. Therefore, there is exactly 1 cell outside the sandwich. That must be an 8. This is in a magic square, so that must be a 2. Now that has to be a 9, and the magic square is fixed. This is the great thing about the magic square, is that once you get a handle on it and get a couple of digits in it, you can force the rest of it out. Look, we can get a bit more. Oh, this 9. We're going to get lots of 1s and 9s now, are we? Yes, we are. 9, 1. Can't get this one yet. Ah, but that square there's got to be... That's got to be a 1 by the looks of it, because this square can't be a 1 because of the 11 clue. We can actually green in some of this row. Okay, so I've now used the 27 clue. Do we get anything more from this? Thing is, we've only really got 1s and 9s and 5s in the grid, apart from in this box. So is it 5s? No, don't think so. 4, 3, 8 with the 20. These add to 15. No, that's no use. Maybe this column we need. Oh yeah, this might work. So I need these two squares to add up to 9. So they've got to be 3 and 6. Because they can't be 4, 5, they can't be 2, 7, and they can't be 1, 8. So now, look, we get 6s in one of those two squares. We get 3s in one of these two squares. And these squares have got to be 5, 7, and 8 to complete the column. That can't be a 5. 1s and 9s, look, I can green in those. I forgot to do that. This square, therefore, has got to be a 1. Oh, God, that's been sitting there for ages. 1s into these two squares. 9s into one of those two squares. 6. This 11 clue, look. Ah, we've got a 3, 6 as an option here. So this has to be a 5 or an 8. Oh, 8 doesn't work. 8 doesn't work because this is a magic square. So if I make this an 8, where do I put the 8 in the magic square? We know it's got to live in one of the corner cells, and it's going to then be next to a 9, which will make that column 17 without, you know, even without the third digit. So that is nonsense. This has to be a 5. 5, 6, 3. So there's a 5 on this side of the grid in one of those two cells. So we've now used the 11 clue. We've used the 0 clue. I've not done this clue yet. Look, those two squares have got a sum to 11. I've not done the 12 clue either. Oops. Ah, but we've got a 6 here. So this square here, oh, that can't be a 6 because that would be next to a 9, and that's a magic square. So the 6 actually is forced to go here, and this magic square is now done. I keep forgetting about the magic square. It's really clever though. It really is very, very nice, this. So once this is a 4, 9, we can fill in this one as a 2. That must be an 8. That should be a 3. That's a 7. And it's another magic square done. So these are 2 and 7 now to complete this row. Don't think I can disambiguate the order. Let's check none of them are magic squares. No, this is the last magic square that we need to pinpoint. So now we've got now this 12 clue is forced though, because we've got a 2 in the sum. Those two have to sum to 10. We've already got 1, 9, 2, 8, 4, 6 ruled out. These have to be 3 and 7. So 3, 3. There must be a 3 in one of those squares. 7, 7, and a 7 in one of the. Oh dear, 7 in one of those two squares. Okay, so. Oh, there's something. Look, we've got 3s in this domino and 3s in this domino. So where does the 3 go in row 1 of the grid? It's got to go here because it can't go in the corner. You can't put a 3 in the corner. So this is a 3. That must be a 7, therefore. That fixes the 7 and the 3 over on that side. That fixes the 8. So that one's a 7 and this is a 5. That's a 5, and we are cooking with gas, aren't we? This is just a brilliant puzzle. I mean, I can't... How many sandwich Sudokus have I done in my life? It is a lot, and it is quite rare, obviously, to see anything new and innovative in this space, but this is absolutely innovative and is really gorgeous. 3 goes in that square by Sudoku. Now, we can fill in the magic square now. We know these 2 squares have got to be 2 and 4 to add up to 15. Well, we can't put the 2 at the top because that will mean that square has to be a 10. So again, we've got the orientation of this figured out. That's going to have to look like that. Now, hopefully, we'll be able to... Now, actually, have we done all the sandwich? No, we've not done this sandwich clue yet. But I think we've done all the others. So hopefully it should just be quite a bit of Sudoku and we should be home and hosed. So let's go along here. We need 2 and 6 into those 2 squares. Of course, that's not resolvable. Must be a 2 in one of these 2 squares. So there must be a 2 in one of those 2 squares. So maybe I do have to do something with this row. So we've got 24 in the sum, plus 1 plus 9 is 34. There are 11 outside the sandwich. And look, we've got a 5 or a 6 here. So if we have 2 cells outside, the problem is they could be well, it could be either of these 2 cells, or it could be a 3-cell sum outside, could it? Or maybe not if there's a 3 and a 4 inside the sandwich. So if it was 6, no, it wouldn't work. If it was 5, no, it wouldn't work. So it is 2 cells outside the sandwich. So either this is a 5 or a 6, or this is a 5 or a 6. I'm sure there's a way of working that out, but I'm not seeing it. So let's carry on. 2, 4, and 6 along here. So this square has to be any of those 3. This has got to be 2 or 4. That's got to be 2, 4, or 6. Along this one, we need 4, 8, and 9. That's a 4, therefore, by the looks of things, because it can't be an 8 and it can't be a 9. Pots a 4 into one of these. This is an 8, 9 pair. The 8 fixes it. So that's an 8. That's a 9. Is that helpful? I feel like it must be helpful. I'm not seeing why. We get a 1, 9 pair in this column now. That's just doing Sudoku on the column. And that's important, look, because now this square, if it's a 1, 9 pair, this can't be a 5 or a 6. So this square is a 5 or a 6. This square is a 1 or a 9, and it can't be a 1. So that's a 9, that's a 1, that's a 9. That's a 1 by Sudoku. That's a 5 by unwinding my pencil mark. 6, 8, 5. Oh, God, I thought I made an error there. But no, it's still going. 8 there. This is an 8 up here, look. We should be able to slot a 6 into one of those 2 squares. That's not helpful, though. These 3 squares, look. We need to put 2, 5, and 7 in there. So this must be the 5 at the top. This is a 2 or a 7. These 2 squares are 4 and 8. We get a 2, 6 pair there. I think I have... Oh no, look! I'm so stupid. I've not used this 11 clue. I was just wondering about this 2, 6, but the possibility of a 2, 6 sort of deadly pattern. But this 11 clue fixes that this is a 6. 2, 4, so this must be a 2. This is a 6. It doesn't look like it's made a huge difference to the solve, but it would have been nice to have spotted it more quickly. Now that must be this square here. Look, this is interesting. Along row 4 of the grid, we need to find 3, 4 and 8. Well, that can only be a 4, so that fixes all of that. That fixes the 8 here now. This column, we need 2 and 6. Still not resolved. There's probably another sandwich sum I've not used. That's a 2 or a 7. So this is a 6 then. So this is a 2, this is a 4. That fixes the 4 and the 2 at the top, and we are closing in on a solution slowly but surely. Let's look down here. Ah, that 2 fixes it. So 2, 7, 7, 2, 6 here, I think. These 3 squares are 3, 4 and 7. That's a 7 therefore. That's a 4, that's a 3. The 3 goes up here. And if I've not made a mistake, we should be looking at 2 and 7 to finish it off. Every cell has a number in it. Check. Yes, that's how to solve it. Brilliant, Sam. I loved that. That was very, very impressive. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do let us know in the comments. We do read them. And do check out that Sudoku puzzle hunt. And yeah, we'll see you soon on Cracking the Cryptic.